So let's enable local user database username and password login for line VTY also. I'll do conf T to get to global config mode. I'll type in line space VTY space 0 space 4 to get to my 5 virtual terminal lines 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And instead of login, we'll use login local. All right. And so now on Telnet, we should be prompted for a username password to Telnet into our router. Let's give it a try, shall we? Let's go to our PCA, okay, and let's see if we can Telnet in. Telnet, there it is, 192.168.1.1. All right, and it asks us for a username. So we type user 02, enter, and then our password, which is Cisco, and we're in. We can type enable, and our password class, and we've just telnetted into R1 from PCA from the command prompt using the telnet command. All right, and it asked us for our username and password. All right, so I'm going to exit out of that. All right, connection's lost. Close PCA. So we were able to telnet from PCA to R1. Okay, so things are going pretty good. I'm going to look at my time that I have left. You see I have 100 minutes remaining in this lab. But if I wanted to right now, what I could do is I could click on save here, and I could save all my configurations. But if I did that, what I'd want to do first is, once again, is go into R1 and turn off the service password encryption by doing a no service password encryption, putting a no in front of it in global config mode, so that the passwords, the login password and the enable password, were stored in clear text, and that they were Cisco for login and class for the enable secret. Also, on R1, if I wanted to make this work so that I could log back in later, what I'd also want to do is change the line VTY 0 to 4 login local back to just login, right? So that it's doesn't ask for a username. Once again, and also I need to do that on line console 0. See, the router here, right? If I hit save, it wants, when it loads up, to have console password of Cisco and enable secret password of class with no username, right? But if we're using the login local command, right, we are bypassing just a password only login, and we're using a username and password login, and that's not going to work to get back into our routers. So I'd also need to change that. So we'd have to change login local, the last two things we did, back to login before we save our configuration files and leave for the day and come back later. That is, if we want to be able to reload and pick up where we left off. Okay, let's do some enhanced security on router 1. So I'm going to go into router 1 again. All right, R1, there it is. And what I'm going to do is, this time I'm going to exit out of that mode and go back to global config mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to do enhanced login security by enabling the login block 4 command in the enhanced security login features. So for instance, if we go to, I'll do Control C, so I'm in privileged user mode, and do a show login, you'll see that show login, no login delay has been applied, no quiet mode access list has been configured, and the router is not enabled to watch for login attacks. So we're talking about enabling some security that will help us with brute force attacks or dictionary attacks, trying to brute force their way into the router by using numerous usernames and passwords, right? You could do hundreds of attempts in sequence to try to brute force attack into the router. So one way we can stop that, or we can defend that, is by using the login block 4 command. And so what we'll do is we'll go conf T to get to global config mode, and then we'll say login, and we'll say block dash 4. So login block 4. And then what we'll do is say we'll block for 60 seconds if there is attempts, 3 login attempts within 30 seconds. And that's what that stands for. Login block for 60 seconds if there's 3 attempts to log into the router within 30 seconds. All right, we'll do that. And now, if we do a Control-C and do the show login command again, you'll see that now there's a default delay of 1 second by default applied between each login. We don't have quiet mode enabled. What we do is we have the routers presently in normal mode, but there is a quiet mode. We just need to have an access list in order to configure it. And then it tells you exactly what the router's been enabled for. The router's been enabled to watch for login attacks if there's more than 3 login failures that occur within 30 seconds or less. Logins to the router will be disabled for 60 seconds. Okay, we're going to add a few more features to this secure login feature. So another thing that we can do is we can set up some accountability. I'll do a conf t here. It gets global config mode by saying login on dash success log. So log every user that successfully logs into the router. That way we know who's logged in, right, and when. And then login on failure log every, and we could say every 2. So every 2 failures to log into the router, create a log of it, just in case those login failures aren't someone in the company who just forgot their password, but somebody trying to gain access, right? We'll have a log of it, when it happened and where. All right. Okay, and exit. Okay. So now, if we wanted to, we could try to telnet again into the router and see how things have possibly changed. So what I'll do is I'll go to PCA that's connected to this router, right? This is gateway. All right, and we'll say the same command as before, telnet into the router. Username, I'll say user 02, and then I'll type in a bad password, right? Login invalid, and then I'll type in the username again, user 02, and I'll type in a bad password again, and login's invalid, user 02. All right, login invalid, right? And connection lost to the host. So let's go back to the router and see if there's any record of that. All right. You can see here that if we go back to the router, you can see that login failed, right? And then secure login, quiet mode is turned on, so the router is locked out, right? And you can see login failed, bad password. All right, so it's creating a log of what happened. All right, so that seemed to work.